Sydney Park was a place where Vibe Tribe cut its teeth, holding all-night raves, which grew in size until one autumn night, one event clashed with the powers that be.
Sydney Park with the three iconic chimneys. You can see it as you're coming into town. It's the start of the inner city culture happening there, and it's a big open space that used to be ground where they had circuses. There's an elephant buried in Sydney Park, then there was a brick pit there, then it was a rubbish dump, and now it's reclaimed as a park, and there's swans living in the pond. Beautiful. But back then we were doing free parties there, and that's where the people came together to celebrate themselves and their culture.
Doing something on their own fruition is not doing any harm to anyone else, but someone up the top says no, they can't have fun.
The rave scene started to kick up, and the police were didn't know what to do with this. I guess they found it a threat, almost a threat to the establishment.
The free party honeymoon was short-lived. In April 1995, a Vibe Tribe free party in Sydney Park turned into a riot as police baton charged the dance floor.
The police came down in like a regimented military formation and moved in and just sought to bash the crap out of everyone they jammed into their formation.
Most people just kept dancing because it was their right to dance, and they just kept dancing, and the police couldn't break through the crowd of people dancing and ended up just getting out their batons and was anyone hurt? Their way through and arresting people. Yeah, people were hurt.
And there was girls being pulled out by the hair and people getting their heads smashed in and chucked into paddy wagons.
That's what my crime was, smiling at a police officer. He grabbed me by the arms, half a dozen, I thought I was going to get beaten up.
Heaps of people came together. It was going off, it was big, it was really exciting, and everyone was having a great time.
We got surrounded by the police and they were very hostile about this whole party and trying to shut it down.
Now both sides hadn't really had a big sort of head-to-head before, and so the police didn't really know how to deal with a lot of people having a lot of fun.
And the police came and rounded up a lot of us and illegally detained us, and so it was kind of also for a lot of people a lesson in how the system works or doesn't.
And then there was an ombudsman's report, and there was a community backlash against it, and the police were kind of in a bad position as well.
The image of police attacking people having fun and dancing is counterproductive for them.
At that point, we sort of reached a point where now the police were really aware of what these parties were. Like at the beginning, they didn't really get what was going on, and that made it really difficult for them to stop it from happening because they really couldn't figure out how it was all operating. But after that party, they really sort of became a lot more clued up on the whole thing, and it became increasingly difficult to get away with these parties.
And at a certain point, we found that we were kind of losing, as Vibe Tribe, we were kind of losing control of the narrative. And Vibe Tribe was really a victim of its own success. A lot of kids who didn't really know what the story was and were just coming to check out the freaks. And all of a sudden it was the spectacle.
And we lived it and we experienced it to as far as we could take it. And then, come the mid-90s, when we realised that ceiling was reached and we weren't prepared to compromise, we dispersed.
There were some crews that did amazing stuff. There was Oms Not Bombs and there were Jungle Punks.
Jungle Punks was a techno crew, and it was pretty much just about techno, and we lived out the Blue Mountains, sort of the back of Kurrajong.
I got asked to go along to a party called Anasazi.
Let's take this whole sort of new inner city techno-y thing and just take it out bush.
A light that was just sort of flashing, and it was like an alien spaceship in the sky.
In the morning, it's a group of people that pretty much danced all night and had the time of their life, and before you knew it, all they wanted to do was help us clean up and help us pack down, and that was pretty much the start of what a lot of us know as the Jungle Punks family.
Something that didn't conform, had no control from the corporate world.
And it was amazing because it was a really cool community of just people that were out looking out for each other, helping each other out, and just really creative and doing amazing things.
You know, we're a bunch of nerds, man. We're just a bunch of dogs from the suburbs that just like to ride skateboards and do our own thing.
Around 1995-96, partly due to the nanny state shutting down events, Sydney lost a lot of party people who relocated to northern New South Wales.
We went to greener pastures and we moved up to the north coast.
Lush nature parties that we then went on to make up in Byron Bay here.
And then we started doing the bush parties up here, sort of Goa style.
And it was a really interesting time, and it all coalesced up here, and I think Beyond the Brain definitely brought all those things together. They were big multimedia events, but they were still very grassroots. There were no big headline acts necessarily.
The powers that be in northern New South Wales soon made it impossible for underground event organisers after a prolific period of epicentre and outdoor bush parties in the mid to late 90s. In Victoria and Melbourne, progressive and harm minimalisation approaches by councils and police allow bush parties like Earthcore and Rainbow Serpent to grow to mega proportions. In Sydney, a strong underground continued to develop despite its nanny state control. Sydney Park continued to be a place for legal and renegade music culture to set up. Since the frequency riot, smaller sound systems and self-policed music shut-off times have managed to find the middle ground in keeping Sydney Park as a place where sound systems can be set up and coexist with joggers and dog walkers. Many party crews and DJs throw free parties down at Sydney Park. During the 90s and early noughties, South Sydney Council allowed and promoted community arts festivals in the park. Sydney Park became home to Sydney's Earth Dance event. The park has also become the host for Mascon festivals.
Sydney Park plays a really important part of the Duff culture as far as I understand, and especially within my own history. Adrian Black, who was one of the coordinators of the Mascon Festival, he asked me to come down and produce the first ever Duff stage at the Mascon Festival, which was a great success. Yeah, unfortunately the next year the administration changed and they didn't ask us to be involved anymore. So I just went, stuff that, do it myself. And I brought a sound system and pretty big one as well, and had my own renegade stage at the last ever Mascon Festival. They weren't too impressed because the vast majority of the crowd gravitated towards what we were doing.
For me, Sydney Park serves like as a social oasis for people to come together and be able to just relax and, take a load off their shoulders and just enjoy themselves.
Sunday Dub Club is over 6 years old, having put on a reggae and dub sound system on the first Sunday of every month at the Brickworks, setting a precedent for good relations with rangers and police.
Sunday Dub Club, that's still going on now, that's been going on for years. Unaffected by the cops. The cops came pretty soon, but they stopped coming after a couple of weeks, seeing there was no problem.
Good music, doesn't go too late, anyone can come.
It's just such a great excuse for everybody just to relax, hang out, enjoy music, and to really catch up with friends.